Welcome to another change-making conversation from Baptist News Global. You're listening to a special podcast series titled Highest Power, Church and State, featuring writer, poet, and musician Rick Pidcock. Now here's Rick.
These are the sounds of ICE agents opening fire on U.S. citizens who are peacefully protesting out by the street. In fact, if you watch the video, the protesters were nowhere near the ICE agents. They were about 40 to 50 feet away from the ICE agents, who were marching out toward them to shoot them in the face with pepper balls. To make the situation even worse, the ICE agents were working outside of a rec center, so other families were arriving for their kids' sporting events and were wheeling toddlers and babies on strollers while ICE was recklessly attacking. But that's not all. Here's Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey sharing another story of ICE's recklessness.
Just to give you another example of how reckless some of these actions are, maybe 12 blocks from here, 10 blocks from here, over on 3rd Avenue, there was an ICE action that took place. An individual from a car that was in the middle of a pretty significant street was detained. They left the car in the middle of the street. The car wasn't even in park, and so you've got this vehicle that is just rolling down the street with nobody in it. And it wasn't a Waymo. This was a car that was rolling down the street that could have hit anybody, including my own family members that live not too far from there. And so this is not about safety, clearly. If this was about safety, you wouldn't do stupid things like that. Somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody has gotten killed. And so that's not the route as to how you do any of these exercises.
Then while those ICE agents are letting cars roll down the street with nobody in them, here's a group of ICE agents in Minnesota jumping out of their cars to surround and confront a protester on the sidewalk.
How you doing?
Good, how about you?
You're interfering with our operations.
Not
and you
at
can
all.
be arrested under 18 U.S.C. 111.
Nope,
we will arrest you. You have been interfering with our operations.
You were following us yesterday.
Numerous times.
Watch what you're doing, dude.
Numerous times you've
Not
been interfering with our operations.
Not interfering.
Yes, you are.
No, I am not.
If you
Never got in
continue,
front of you.
you will be in handcuffs. You will be arrested. You will be
18
prosecuted.
U.S. Code 111. Get that through your head,
That's
dude.
a lot of numbers you just remember.
Yep.
Good job. I'm not breaking the law and you fucking know it.
Yes, you are.
Not breaking the law
Yes, you are.
and you fucking know it. Never got in front of everyone, never.
One more time and I will put you in handcuffs.
Bro.
One more time.
Bro.
Keep it up.
Step the fuck off, you piece
No,
of shit.
I'll
Yeah.
stand right here, pal. Right here all day.
If I fucking touch you, then you're gonna fucking arrest me.
Right all day.
Yeah, fuck you.
You are worthless.
Fuck you.
Worthless.
Fuck you.
You are.
Fuck you.
You have
Yeah.
no honor.
Hold your fucking dogs back. Hold your
In addition to threatening to arrest him without any legitimate justification, the ICE agent also calls the person worthless. It's one of the clearest examples of what's going on here. We have a group of angry, entitled men who demand absolute submission and impulsively threaten violence when they don't receive that. Ultimately, these entitled, violent men consider those who won't submit to them to be worthless. Minneapolis pastor Kenny Callaghan of All God's Children Metropolitan Community Church had a similar experience, except his included guns, threats, and overt racism. He shared his story on Katie Tur Reports on MS Now.
As I arrived at church yesterday, I noticed that there was something going on just a block and a half from the church. And so I grabbed my whistles because we're used to doing that. And I went down to see what was going on. And I realized it was an ICE raid. And there were many, many protesters. So I joined the protesting. And before I knew it, I saw ICE agents circling a young woman who appeared to be Hispanic. And so I approached her, and we were at that point chanting, "We are not afraid. We are not afraid. Go out of our state. We are not afraid." And I said to this ICE agent, "Take me. Stop harassing her. Take me." The agent came, got in my face, pointed a gun at me, and said, "Are you afraid now?" To which I said, I am not afraid. The next thing I knew, they were putting handcuffs on me and they put me in the back of an SUV. They came back 3 times and they asked me if I was afraid yet. To which I replied, hell no, I'm not afraid of you. And I'm never going to be afraid of you. The 3rd time when they came back, they asked for my identification. They asked for my cell phone. I asked them if I was under arrest. They didn't answer. And then they said to me, well, you're white. You won't be any fun anyway. You can get out of the car. I was astounded to experience and see such blatant racism and the effects that this is having on our community.
They wanted him to be afraid of them. They were thirsty for fear. But of course, MAGA posters are all over social media saying that there's no way the story really happened and that he's simply a so-called pastor and not really a pastor because he's gay. Speaking of dismissing people because they're gay, that's another reason conservatives are dismissing the murder of Renee Nicole Good. Fox News' Jesse Waters joked that she was a self-proclaimed poet with pronouns in her bio who leaves behind a lesbian partner. Of course, she was an award-winning poet. I actually closed episode 90 by sharing some of her poetry. But the ICE agent who shot and killed her had another name for her.
I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the car. Whoa! Fucking bitch.
Men who shoot women in the face out of unexpected terror and self-defense don't immediately say in a seething tone, "fucking bitch." That's how entitled men who shoot in anger over not being obeyed respond. And it fits the pattern we're seeing here from all these other ICE agents. Here's another one that happened after Renee Good's murder.
Shame on you.
Listen, have y'all not learned from the past couple of days? Have you not learned?
Learned what? What's our lesson here? What do you want us to learn?
Following federal agents.
Give me my phone.
Again, it's a white man walking up to a woman to confront her. He asks her if she's learned her lesson, presumably from Renee Good's murder, and then he gets so upset that she won't submit that he rips her phone from her hand. Apparently threatening people by reminding them about how they murdered Renee Good is a theme with these guys. Here's one reminding someone presumably on their way to church.
This is your warning.
For what?
Stop fucking following us. You are impeding operations. This is the United States federal
I live
government.
over here. I gotta get to my house.
This is your warning.
Gotta get to
All
my
right?
house.
Go home to your kids.
Go to church.
Go to home to your kids. This is your last warning.
I serve the Lord.
I will arrest you.
You should be in church.
Just don't make a bad decision, okay, sir?
I'm not making any bad decision. I'm peaceful. I serve the Lord.
You've been warned, all right?
Not a draft dodging coward.
Have a great day, sir.
You too. God bless. Let these people go to church. Let these people serve the Lord and worship. Let people let
the
the people.
I guarantee you, you're not going to like the outcome. Go home to your children. It's Sunday.
Yeah, go
It is
exactly.
Sunday.
Let people go to
You did
church.
not learn from what just happened? Go home to
Learn
your
what?
kids.
Speaking of pastors, during my interview with Pastor Martha Bardwell for episode 90, she had this to say.
Also, one of my congregation members goes to Roosevelt High School. And yesterday, this would have been national news had Renee not been shot. At this high school, during dismissal, students are out there getting on buses. ICE shows up in force, tackles 2 staffers of the school to the ground, and starts spraying pepper spray. It's just seeding chaos. And intimidation. I heard that one of the educators was released after being detained, but it's cruel. It's just reckless cruelty. And our own governor put it well when he said they want to show from us so that they can justify the actions and the cruelty that they're bringing to our city.
Here's some of the audio of ICE attacking the high school.
Oh!
That was a grenade.
Are you bear tackle down in football, bitch? Guys, don't antagonize them. They literally just killed someone. We're killing you.
As high school students are waiting for their parents to pick them up, ICE swoops in and shoots them with pepper balls. Rather than enjoying a final few minutes before saying goodbye to the students as they drive home, teachers are warning the kids to get back because, quote, they literally just killed someone, unquote. DHS is now claiming they were simply there because they were chasing someone who hit one of their cars. But if that's true, why were they tackling and taking teachers? And why were they shooting kids with pepper balls? When normal police officers are chasing someone, they don't start attacking everyone around them. They get the person they're going after. A lot of questions need to be asked. So Minnesota schools had to close for a few days, all because of ICE's incompetence and violence. As ICE goes door to door, they're disabling any security cameras they can to make sure none of us can see what they're doing to our neighbors. We could spend hours going over example after example of how clueless, entitled, reckless, and violent these ICE agents are. And what's especially frustrating in it all is how racist the entire campaign is. Of course, we all knew this was coming. And those of us who are honest have known it's about white supremacy from the beginning. The way this administration has gone after DEI to fire black people, removed monuments that honored black people, and demonized immigrants as eating cats and dogs, while at the same time posting image after image on social media filled with white people being true Americans, and then going after historians and journalists who point out patterns of how this relates to the past, makes this accusation of white supremacy undeniable. So of course they were always going to go after immigrants. But as Robert P. Jones shared on the Convocation Unscripted, this particular attack on Minnesota has a very specific racist component to it.
Yeah, well, I've been thinking a lot about lies. I'm writing, I haven't posted it yet. It'll go up either tonight or tomorrow morning. That I think I'm just calling like Trump's lies are killing us, because he's not only lying about what happened. The video is pretty plain. There's been a lot of independent analysis, saying clearly this woman was not trying to run over, nor did she run over. Trump's actually claimed she did run over an ICE agent, and then they shot her. That was Trump's claim, even while he was looking at the video with New York Times reporters. Clearly, that's not what the video shows. So he's lying about what happened, but not only that, like I was just trying to think about if we trace the deadly chain of the lies back, where does it go, right? And so why is ICE in Minnesota to begin with, right? They don't get there without Trump's lies. Remember, and this is like for those of us who are, and I know there's a lot of people here in the Twin Cities, I've seen several in the chat, I think many of us are friends with Angela Dinker, Travis Norvell, and others who are clergy in the city, and kind of have been on chats with them today, and hearts go out to all of them, and kids are out of school, and it's all a real mess. The thing I was remembering is that so what's at the heart of this is a racist screed that Trump went on in the early December, where he was attacking Somali immigrants, right? And so there's a large population of Somali immigrants, and for those of us tracking the kind of faith and politics angle, they're there because they were resettled by Lutheran Social Services for a big part of it, with the support of the U.S. government. It was kind of government-funded thing that and that's the role we used to play in the world, right? That we would provide homes for refugees, and they're there because of that. And Trump went on this screed in early December, you may remember it, where he called Somalia a stinking country, that we don't want people in our country. He called them garbage people. And that was the word that he used back then. And so now we have 2,000 ICE agents deployed in this provocative, very aggressive way here. But if you trace if you trace it all back, there's only lying about what happened, but the lies are at the root of why they're even there, right? And for example, the lies are at the root of why ICE has $170 billion to spend, right, on this very aggressive immigration enforcement. It's all built on lies, right? And I think that's the thing we've got to remember, that none of this gets off the ground, and lies are horrible for all kinds of reasons, but they are actually killing people in the U.S. And the Contrarian this morning had a source showing also that this is not the first death. You mentioned this too, Jamara. This is not the first death, but even just since July, they have tracked 14 other shootings by ICE officers, from them rolling into town like these in very aggressive ways. So we've got at least 15 people who should be at home with their families, but are not because, and again, you trace the chain back, it's anchored in lies that Trump's been telling about immigrants, also bigoted and racist, by the way.
So what does the Trump administration have to say for itself in all this? Border Czar Tom Homan told Dr. Phil that those of us who are calling them out need to tone down the rhetoric.
I'm begging. Tone down the rhetoric. I don't want to see any more bloodshed. I didn't want to see bloodshed from day one. But with the rhetoric now, comparing ICE to murderers and the chief secret police, I'm afraid this is not over.
I'm afraid you're right.
And Vice President J.D. Vance reminds us that ICE agents have absolute immunity.
The precedent here is very simple. You have a federal law enforcement official engaging in federal law enforcement action. That's a federal issue. That guy is protected by absolute immunity. He was doing his job. The idea that Tim Walz and a bunch of radicals in Minneapolis are going to go after and make this guy's life miserable because he was doing the job that he was asked to do is preposterous.
And when Trump was asked if deadly force was necessary, he didn't answer by saying yes or no. Instead, he answered by bringing up the very thing that is angering so many of these ICE agents. He says Renee Good was being disrespectful.
Do you believe that deadly force was necessary after watching all the footage a few days have passed? What's your assessment there?
It was highly disrespectful of law enforcement. The woman and her friend were highly disrespectful of law enforcement. You saw that. They were harassing them, were following for days and for hours. And I think, frankly, they're professional agitators.
But just disrespect.
And I'd like to find out, and we are going to find out who's paying for it.
But just disrespect.
With their brand new signs and all the different things. But these are professional agitators, and law enforcement should not be in a position where they have to put up with this stuff. What that woman and what her friend and what their other friends were doing to law enforcement, not just ICE, law enforcement is outrageous.
So with the Trump administration targeting areas run by Democrats, Philadelphia Sheriff Rochelle Bilal isn't fooling around. She had some rather choice words for any ICE agents who dare to attack her city.
Good afternoon. I'm Rochelle Bilal, the sheriff for the city and county of Philadelphia. And I say her name, Renee Good. Renee Good. Renee Good. Renee Good. Renee Good. Renee Good. This should not have happened, but we're here today. Let know that law enforcement professionals, real ones, not the fake made up ICE, probably Trump's new army to attack citizens of the United States. Did you hear what I said? No law enforcement professional wears a mask. None. None. Those that come into our communities wearing a mask to commit crime, thank God for our district attorney, Larry Krasner, who say he's going to lock them up. And I'm saying now, we are not going to whisk you away for them to hide your identity, because when you do it there, you're getting arrested there. No whisk away for them to hide you. None of that here. None of that here. Law enforcement professionals do not shoot at moving vehicles. I'm not saying fleeing, because she wasn't fleeing. She was getting out of the way. Law enforcement professionals do not stand in front of moving vehicles invoking an action that is illegal. No, we don't. And so we stand here today with all those who stand against the made-up, fake, what you can call ICE, professional law enforcement. I don't call them none of that. I call them made-up, fake, wannabe law enforcement. Because what they do is against not only legal law, but the moral law. So I'm with the DA, and we will work with them. If any of them want to come in this city and commit a crime, you will not be able to hide. Nobody will whisk you off. you don't want this smoke, because we will bring it to you. And the fake, whatever they call them, because I can't say the name, but the criminal in the White House would not be able to keep you from going to jail. Renee Good should be here today. And to her family, we are saying law enforcement professionals are not the ones here in this city that would do that. But here's the last thing that I will say. Law enforcement professionals around the country do their job, and we have been fighting for years to build that bridge between us and our communities. You have one negative nutcase that causes this problem, and now we all have to fight again to let people know law enforcement works with communities. These crimes would not be down if we didn't have communities work with us. Thank you.
What I especially loved about her words was how direct and raw and honest she was. This is a criminal president who has enlisted a made-up fake army, and you don't want the smoke. Obviously, her words have caused an uproar. In fact, some conservatives have called for her to be arrested. Of course they would. But in follow-up to what she said, she stood her ground, saying enough is enough. She told CNN, quote, "People are tired of these people coming into the city, masked up, basically all masked up, and pulling people out and causing havoc. This was supposed to be helping cities out. This was supposed to be eliminating crime, but yet you are committing them here. You are putting people in fear. You are breaking up families," unquote. One thing that really bothers me as we're looking at all of these videos, and especially the Renee Good videos, is how we're watching them like they're an instant replay in football where we're trying to determine whether it was a catch or not based on which team we're rooting for. Was it a murder or an act of patriotism by protecting the other officers she supposedly planned to run over? Frame by frame, is the foot in bounds? Did the officer maintain control of the ball all the way to the ground? Was the steering wheel properly turned? What was the angle of the shot when the bullet pierced her head? Rewind, play, rewind, play. Different angle, rewind, play. I get the need to watch the videos, but there's also something dehumanizing about how we've been so conditioned to respond to such violence with analysis rather than with grief, anger, and reflection on what the hell we voted for. It's okay to be angry. In fact, if what we're seeing today doesn't make you angry, then are you at all in touch with your humanity? I am so angry right now at white evangelicals and conservative Catholics for what they've done to my neighbors that I'll never step foot in another one of their churches again. I'll eat a meal with some of them on occasion out of obligation because they're family, but I'll never sing another song with them. I'm done. I'm out. And quite frankly, I can't stand what they've become and what they've done. They think I'm angry on social media when I post videos of what they're doing. They have no idea of how much I'm holding back what I'd really like to say to them. So no, the rhetoric doesn't need to be toned down. People are being hurt, people are being terrorized, and people are being killed. It's important that we name the grief, the lament, the bewilderment, the disappointment, and the anger over how white supremacists are enabling out of control, entitled, violent men to hurt, kidnap, and murder our neighbors simply because they feel disrespected. That's all for today. Thank you so much for listening, even when it's probably quite difficult to listen. Please like, subscribe, and rate us on your favorite podcast platform, and we'll be back with another episode on Thursday.
This has been another change-making conversation from Baptist News Global. The episode you've just heard is part of a special podcast series titled Highest Power, Church and State. Be sure to follow BNG daily at baptistnews.com and subscribe to get notifications about future episodes. Baptist News Global is a national nonprofit news service that is independent, free, and faithful. BNG is supported by readers and listeners like you. Learn more at baptistnews.com.
This episode was produced and edited by Mac Bowles of TKG Communications, LLC, Dallas, Texas.